So inside the Ford F-150 Raptor R, it's not very different than a regular F-150. It's all very familiar, except for, of course, red accents, because red means fast, right? So I have red accents here on each extremity of the dashboard, red stitching on the top part of the dash as well, on the shift lever and around the seats. The seats are a bit more aggressively bolstered, but not too much. They still remain rather comfortable and plush. You want that from a Ford F-150. The Raptor logo, of course, on the seat. I have an R logo on the steering wheel right here. Raptor here on the center console, and a nice subtle V8 logo with a racing stripe right here on the side. So when you open the driver door, it's the first thing you see. It's right there in your face to remind you that this truck is powered by a V8 engine. I find that pretty cool. There's kind of like fake carbon fiber here and there. It's okay. I mean, some kind of little motif design right here. It looks like carbon fiber, but it's actually just plastic. Overall though, it's quite familiar. And I also have the good old button here that allows me to retract the shifter or bring it back up. Gimmick, but it allows you to have a flat surface because this one has the surface option, so you can like put a laptop here or whatever you need to you need for work. So this can still be a work truck. Ford did not take away the utility of the F-150 for the Raptor R. In terms of toys and technology, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of drive modes as well, just like the Ford Mustang GT I reviewed not long ago, but everything happens right here in front of you. It's not really happening in the infotainment system because this is basically the same infotainment system as what Ford will offer in a standard F-150. You do have, you know, a secondary menu here on the right, so it allows you to kind of add extra information. So there is a off-road menu right there, but it mostly gives you the inclination of the truck when you're in a trail, but you can get that in a standard F-150. Your drive modes are right here, so this is where you'll see most of the differences between a Raptor or a regular F-150. Two-wheel drive high, four-wheel drive high, four-wheel drive auto, so it'll automatically switch between 2 and 4-wheel drive, and 4x4 low. So if I want to lock the rear differential, I push it right here, and you can see it here in the instrument cluster, or push back and it unlocks the rear diff. Drive modes, I have several drive modes to choose from. I can go from normal, and every time I change, the vehicle will automatically either shift to 2 all-wheel drive, 4x4 low, 4x4 high. So you can either do this manually or you can let the system do it all for you. It's also going to change the instrument cluster as well as the heads-up display. So normal mode for balanced everyday driving, off-road, rough, uneven, mixed terrain. You see shift, 4x4 shift in progress, everything changes in front of me. And I also have a forward camera here on the screen to see what's happening in front of me, because this is a pretty big truck, so you want these cameras to see the terrain, see what's happening ahead. So after off-road mode, you move on to Baja. This is the mode I will be using on the gravel road because it's really meant for high-speed driving on a loose surface. So it stays in all-wheel drive high, but the traction control system is going to be kind of modulated to allow the truck to play a bit more, drift it, you know, play around with it, allow it to rotate in a corner. It's kind of almost like a rally mode if you want. I really like this mode. And of course the instrument cluster changes accordingly. Then after Baja, you move on to rock crawl. This will shift it to 4x4 low. It's telling me to put it into neutral to do this, but I'm not going to do it right now. Then you can move on to sport mode. This is again all-wheel drive. It's really more for somebody who wants to just perform on the tarmac with it. Trailer mode, tow and haul, and slippery, so wet, ice, and snowy roads. These are the same modes as a standard F-150, by the way. So really what you're getting extra are like all the off-road and Baja modes in the Raptor. The Raptor R has the same drive modes as a regular Raptor, because when you think about it, this is just kind of a Raptor on steroids. What mostly changes is the engine and suspension tuning and chassis, and that's pretty much it. I can also independently modulate everything if I want. If I don't want to have to do with Ford's pre-selected modes, I can change everything here on the steering wheel. I have a steering wheel button that allows me to change the steering wheel stiffness. If you want to have a soft suspension and a stiff steering, you can do it independently, or you can also play with the suspension as well right here with the damper stiffness by pressing on a button here on the steering wheel. And finally, the exhaust button, just like the Mustang GT, this can go from loud to very loud. Ford is giving me 4 modes: quiet, normal, sport, Baja, but it seems like between quiet and normal, there's only 2 modes really. When you open it up, maybe in Baja mode, like when you're really plowing down a dirt road, you might hear it a bit more, but you know, it pretty much goes from like a standard loud noise to a very annoyingly loud noise, but it's still handy. I mean, if you're driving around in a neighborhood, you don't want to bother your neighbors, you don't want to piss people off, you can put this thing in silent mode and not be a douchebag. And that's pretty much it. I mean, the rest is just good old F-150. I do have these massive paddle shifts in the back that you don't get in a regular F-150 because I do have 700 horsepower. I have a 10-speed transmission, so if I want, I can shift manually using these paddles. But the steering wheel is very large, so it doesn't feel very sporty. It's really like a bus. Everything about this truck is big and massive, which I'll be able to show you in my driving impressions. So that's about it. That's pretty much all there is to know about the interior of the 2024 Ford F-150 Raptor R. So the numbers surrounding the Raptor R are absolutely insane. 700 horsepower, 640 foot-pounds of torque. It's actually 250 horsepower more than the regular Raptor, powered by the EcoBoost engine. The power is generated by what Ford calls the Predator engine. It's a 5.2 liter supercharged V8. This engine was actually taken straight out of the Shelby GT500. And it weighs 6,000 pounds, 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. So it's just mind-blowing that a vehicle of this size and weight can perform that way. This is really just a Raptor Plus. In terms of chassis, suspension, it's pretty much the same. Ford kind of changed the damping on it because the new engine in the front is a bit heavier. Some brackets were changed on the frame as well for, you know, different articulation and stiffness. But overall, it's pretty much the same truck, except of course the immense amount of power that I have. So I'm here on a dirt road. You can obviously hear this thing, and what you can do with a Raptor R on a loose surface is absolutely unreal. Now, I'm not in the desert. I'm not driving this, you know, in an open field. I'm on a dirt road. This is the best that I could find to do this kind of legally, because you can go really, really fast with this truck. I have a lot of drive modes. Ford is very, very good with changing the drive modes of their vehicles. We talked about that as well in my Ford Mustang GT video, and it's the same for the Raptor. I can adjust them right down here. You know, on this surface, I put it in Baja mode because the truck is all-wheel drive. It'll kind of change the characteristics of the traction control system to allow it to play a bit, and that's really how it feels. It's quite something to drive this truck on a loose surface because you feel it moving around. There's a lot of weight transfer happening. So if you're not used to this, if you're not familiar with driving one of these types of vehicles on this kind of surface, it can be scary. However, once you do get used to it, when you do get familiar with the chassis dynamics of a Raptor R, it becomes rather fun, and it's quite surprising how precise and how much this thing can move around on different types of surfaces. So I'm back on pavement, and I will go back on a dirt road in a few seconds, and it's really going to allow you to see how this truck behaves. The big soft suspension makes it very enjoyable. It's actually quite comfortable on a regular tarmac road. So the sound, with the exhaust open, of course, God, this thing sounds good. You hear the supercharger whine in the front, and in many ways it reminds me of the Ram TRX, but it's a lot more precise than a Ram TRX. It's more of it's not as much as a joke or as that truck. This feels more, you know, race calibrated. It feels like this feels like a trophy truck that was converted for road use. Right, so back on a new surface. This is really where the Raptor R performs the best. And you know, you gun the throttle, and that you kick some dust, and the rear will kick out right away. I really like how they've calibrated this system. There's a lot going on. There's kind of torque vectoring happening in the rear. It's brake bias torque vectoring, however, it's not mechanical. But hey, whatever. I mean, this thing really, really works on a loose gravel road. I'm gonna be careful here because I am driving close to, you know, some houses. I'm not gonna push it too much because this thing is so loud. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to bother, and I want to break the piece here. But I am going to have a chance to open it up a bit. Here we go. Okay, nice. You know, it's really something because the steering wheel is big. Everything is large on a Raptor R, and there's a lot of power going on. So you really have to be careful because you'll end up carrying a lot of speed very fast, and then when you're going to start applying the brakes, it's just going to like start wobbling and drifting. Look at that. Look at that. Wow. It is really fun. I didn't think I would have this much fun in a Ford F-150 Raptor R. I'm going to tone down the exhaust just a bit because I don't want these people to hate me because I come back here once in a while to review cars. I like this bit of road, and I don't want the people living here, you know, calling the police, and then, you know what happens next, right? Oh, cows. The suspension damping on these things is absolutely unbelievable. And, you know, when you think about it, you know, Ford owns this segment. It created this category of vehicle with the very first Ford F-150 Raptor, this idea of bringing a Baja truck onto the road. And it's extremely successful in terms of sales. A lot of people have been buying Raptors of all generations. The first models were powered by V8 engines. After that, the EcoBoost V6, and this one is back to V8 form. And with the TRX now gone, it's really the only truck available that can do this, that can offer this much horsepower. Nobody really needed a Raptor that had 250 horsepower more than the regular one, but the fact that this thing exists is just, yeah, why not, right? Why not? We are experiencing what I like to call the berserker moment of the automotive industry because car makers know that soon everything will have to be electrified. Emission regulations will become even stricter. Well, car makers are bringing out these monsters because they still can. It's still possible to do so. And it's really a testament of the type of engineering that Ford can apply to the F-150 pickup truck. You know, it really shows how much they understand what pickup owners want, even in this segment, in the high performance off-road segment. Now, unfortunately, the Raptor R is coming at a time where more and more trails are closing down for environmental reasons. There are less and less areas where you can actually take a truck like this out in the open legally, you know, without getting a fine or ending up crashing into somebody like right here. You know, for me, when I have a chance to review these trucks, I never really know where to bring them. There aren't that many off-road dedicated areas where I can bring this. Yes, there are some ATV or side-by-side trails, but I can't bring a Raptor in there. It's too wide, too large, too heavy, and I'm just going to end up damaging the trails. Here on a gravel road seems appropriate. It's a very loose surface, and if it would be a snowy surface, it must be also even just as fun. The fact that I can carry so much speed on such a loose surface is really, really impressive considering what I'm driving. Suspension damping, when you're coming down, you apply the brakes, the nose dives, and then you can slide it out of a corner like this, apply throttle. It's like driving a big, fat, overweight sports car because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to be able to play around with a Ford F-150 like I'm doing, but the way that you can place it on the road, it's big, knobby tires, just gripping on the gravel. It's soft suspension, absorbing the weight transfer. It's extremely intimidating at first, but once you see what this thing can do, once you know its traction control systems, its electronic aids help it stay in a straight line, well, you quickly realize it's actually just as easy to drive as any other pickup truck. All right, so from tarmac onto gravel at high speed, here we go. Didn't notice anything. You just eat up terrain with a Raptor R. It is the ultimate pickup truck. Oh my God, why does this thing exist? But I'm happy it does though. Look at this, bogging down the hill, nice and soft, back up. You're always feeling the truck going like this, moving around, shifting. It's just always working for you to make sure you're not crashing, basically. Because, man, what I just did there, if I weren't like in a regular F-150, I don't think I would have been able to control it. Dive the nose, slide into the corner, give it throttle, and enjoy the sound. Coming right down here, this is going to be another transition from gravel to pavement on a little bridge here. Nice, nice. You see how it slid there? And I'll try to do it again right here. Wow. 10-speed transmission doing its job. You know, I've had mixed feelings in the past about the Ford GM 10-speed. It seems to only operate well on high displacement engines, which is the case here. And right now I have absolutely nothing negative to say about the transmission, except for the fact that there's a bit of delays once in a while, depending on the drive mode that you're in. But hey, you've got 10 cogs to deal with here, so I can kind of forgive it for taking a bit of time to give me the ideal gear. But there's so much torque going on, there's so much instant power that it doesn't really matter which gear you're in. It'll just take it in. So yeah, Ford F-150 Raptor R, 700 horsepower of pure madness. I just beat the crap out of it on a dirt road. I drifted it. I'm not going to tell you how fast I was going, but I was going pretty fast. I had a lot of fun. I burned a lot of gas. And what did I learn? That these things are really cool. I'll be totally honest, before I drove this thing, I had a lot of prejudice against it because it doesn't need to exist. We're in a situation of climate urgency. We really need to stop emitting CO2 emissions, and this thing just goes in the completely opposite direction. However, I understand why Ford is doing this, because it's kind of like its last chance to do so. We have never seen such a monster. We've never seen pickup trucks with so much horsepower and torque that can literally take on anything. You can jump this thing on dunes all day long. You can beat the crap out of it on a dirt road. You can try to break it, and it probably won't break unless, of course, you go extreme on it. But what I'm all about is that the level of engineering with this thing is absolutely impressive. The fact that Ford can bring out such a massive truck with massive dampers, massive tires, a 5.2 liter supercharged V8 straight out of a Mustang Shelby, and sell this thing in 6-digit pricing is a testament to what the automotive industry has become. It's a toy. It's a big fat toy for people with a lot of money who want to make a lot of noise and have a lot of fun. And I honestly really liked my experience with the Raptor R. It's the kind of vehicle that in the future we'll look back to and realize, wow, we were having a lot of fun with cars before everything went to hell.